In this episode, we talk about one of the most stressful moments a privacy program can face, a breach, or even the suspicion of a breach. When something goes wrong with personal data, time pressure rises, emotions spike, and teams can accidentally work against each other if roles are not already defined. Beginners sometimes imagine breach response as a single team jumping in and fixing things, but real breach response is a coordinated effort across security, IT, legal, privacy leadership, communications, customer support, and often product teams and vendor managers. The reason role definition matters is that breach response has two kinds of accountability at the same time. Internal accountability, which means stopping harm, preserving evidence, and restoring systems, and external accountability, which means meeting legal notification duties and communicating truthfully to people who may be affected. If you only focus on the technical side, you may miss notification deadlines and damage trust. If you only focus on communication, you may make statements that are not supported by evidence and create bigger problems. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain breach response roles by function and how those roles connect to both internal and external accountability. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A breach, in privacy terms, is generally an event where personal data is accessed, disclosed, altered, lost, or destroyed in an unauthorized or accidental way that creates risk to individuals. Some breaches are obvious, like a database exposed to the internet, and some are subtle, like an employee sending a file to the wrong recipient or a vendor reporting suspicious access. Some events are not breaches at all, but they still need investigation, like a failed login spike that looks scary but turns out to be harmless scanning. Operationally, the first challenge is not to label everything a breach immediately, but to treat reports seriously and move into structured triage. That triage is where roles must be clear because it decides who investigates, who makes legal determinations, and who communicates internally. A good role model ensures that everyone knows what to do in the first hour, because confusion in the first hour often creates delays and mistakes that are hard to fix later. Security typically leads the technical investigation and containment, and that role should be defined explicitly so there is no debate during a crisis. Security responsibilities often include confirming whether an event occurred, determining the attack path or error pathway, stopping ongoing unauthorized access, collecting logs, and preserving forensic evidence. Security also assesses whether systems are still compromised, whether credentials were exposed, and what steps are required to prevent recurrence, such as patching vulnerabilities or rotating keys. In many organizations, security also coordinates with external incident response firms if deeper forensics are needed. The privacy program needs security's findings, but privacy does not replace security's technical leadership. Defining security's role clearly protects speed and accuracy, because investigation and containment must move quickly and be grounded in evidence, not assumptions. IT often plays a complementary but distinct role, especially in environments where IT owns infrastructure operations, identity systems, backups, and restoration. IT responsibilities in a breach can include isolating affected systems, applying configuration changes, restoring services from backups, and implementing emergency access changes like disabling accounts or forcing password resets. IT may also manage coordination with cloud providers or internal platform teams. The boundary between security and IT can be blurry, which is why it must be clarified in advance. Security leads investigation and determines what should happen to reduce risk, while IT executes many of the operational changes and ensures systems return to stable service. When the boundary is unclear, you can get conflicts like restoring a system before evidence is preserved or delaying containment because the team with the needed access is waiting for direction. Clear roles ensure evidence preservation and operational recovery are balanced properly. Legal has a central role in breach response because breach response is not only technical, it is also a legal and regulatory event. Legal responsibilities can include interpreting notification obligations across jurisdictions, advising on communications language, assessing contractual duties to customers and partners, and coordinating with regulators or law enforcement when appropriate. Legal also advises on privilege strategy in some organizations, meaning how investigations and documentation are handled to support legal protections where applicable. Importantly, legal cannot make accurate decisions without facts, which means legal needs structured input from security and IT about what happened, what data was involved, and what exposure is confirmed versus suspected. A well-defined role model treats legal as the interpreter and advisor on obligations, while requiring technical teams to deliver timely, evidence-based updates. This prevents legal from being forced to guess under time pressure, which is a common path to either over-notifying unnecessarily or under-notifying and creating regulatory risk. The privacy function, often led by a privacy program manager or privacy officer, plays a coordinating and accountability role that bridges technical investigation and external obligations. Privacy responsibilities often include maintaining the breach response playbook from a privacy perspective, ensuring the organization assesses risk to individuals, ensuring data subject rights and expectations are considered, and coordinating notification workflows. Privacy also helps ensure documentation is complete, consistent, and aligned with regulatory requirements, such as keeping a record of the incident, decisions made, and communications sent. Privacy must work closely with legal to interpret notification duties and with security to understand technical details, but privacy brings a distinct focus: the impact on individuals and the alignment with program commitments and notices. In many organizations, privacy also coordinates internal stakeholder updates, ensuring executives, customer support, and product leadership receive consistent information. Defining privacy's role prevents gaps where technical work is strong but external accountability is chaotic. Communications and public relations roles are essential for external accountability, but they must be tied tightly to approved facts to avoid harmful speculation. Communications responsibilities can include preparing public statements, coordinating messaging across channels, and advising leaders on tone and clarity. They also help manage media inquiries and social media reactions, which can escalate quickly during a breach. The critical role definition here is that communications does not invent facts. Communications translates confirmed facts into understandable language. This role should include a review loop with legal, privacy, and security so statements are accurate, compliant, and consistent with what is known. Without this, organizations sometimes release vague or misleading messages that later contradict findings, which damages trust more than the original incident. When communications roles are defined well, the organization can speak quickly without sacrificing accuracy. Customer support and account management roles are another key function because affected individuals often turn to support first, not to official statements. Support responsibilities can include receiving incoming questions, verifying identities where needed, explaining what happened in plain language using approved scripts, and guiding individuals toward protective actions like password resets or monitoring. Support also collects feedback and reports patterns, such as a spike in suspicious activity reports that may inform investigation. The role definition must include clear boundaries, such as not speculating, not providing unapproved details, and escalating certain calls to privacy or security when they involve sensitive issues. Support needs training and scripts prepared in advance, because improvising during a breach leads to inconsistent answers and accidental disclosure of details that are not confirmed. When support roles are defined and supported, the organization's external accountability becomes practical because real people get consistent help instead of confusion. Product and engineering teams can have critical breach response roles when the incident involves application behavior, code vulnerabilities, or design flaws that enabled exposure. These teams may be responsible for developing and deploying fixes, such as patching a vulnerability, changing access logic, or disabling a problematic feature. They also help identify what data was exposed by analyzing application logs, database queries, or system architecture. Product teams may also coordinate user-facing changes, like adding security prompts or modifying account flows to reduce risk. The role model should define when product and engineering are pulled into response, how they coordinate with security for testing and verification, and how changes are documented for later review. This clarity prevents a common failure mode where teams rush fixes without testing, causing new outages, or where fixes are delayed because ownership is unclear. When product roles are defined, technical remediation becomes faster and more controlled. Vendor management and procurement roles matter because many breaches involve third parties, and even when the breach is internal, vendors may need to be notified or may need to assist. Vendor management responsibilities can include contacting vendor security teams, ensuring contractual notification timelines are met, coordinating access to vendor logs or reports, and tracking vendor remediation actions. If a vendor is involved, external accountability includes not only notifying individuals, but also fulfilling contractual duties to customers and partners. Vendor roles should also include assessing whether the incident changes the organization's risk assessment of the vendor and whether additional controls are needed. Without defined vendor roles, organizations often waste precious time trying to find the right contacts or debating who owns the relationship. Clear vendor governance turns vendor involvement into a predictable workflow rather than a scramble. Internal accountability also requires executive leadership roles, not because executives must handle technical details, but because breach response often requires fast decisions about resources, trade-offs, and public stance. Executives may need to authorize external incident response support, approve customer remediation efforts, or accept short-term operational disruption to reduce risk. Executives also serve as the public face in some cases, and their credibility depends on receiving consistent, evidence-based briefings. A role model should define who briefs leadership, how often, and what format is used, so leaders are not overwhelmed with conflicting messages. Leadership roles also include ensuring the organization learns from the incident, funding corrective actions, and supporting culture changes if the breach reveals systemic issues. When leadership roles are clear, response decisions are faster and follow-through is more likely, which improves both internal and external accountability. Documentation and decision logging are the thread that ties functional roles together because accountability depends on being able to show what happened and how you responded. The breach response process should include a structured incident record that captures timelines, evidence sources, containment actions, risk assessments, notification decisions, communications approvals, and remediation steps. Each function contributes to this record, but one role must own the integrity of the documentation, often privacy or a designated incident manager. This record supports audits and regulatory inquiries, and it also supports learning because post-incident reviews depend on accurate history. Documentation also prevents internal confusion because it creates a single narrative of what is known and what is still unknown. In a crisis, memory is unreliable, so defensible records protect everyone involved and support consistent decision-making. As you close out this episode, the key takeaway is that breach response succeeds when roles are defined before the breach happens, because you cannot invent clear governance during a crisis. Security leads technical investigation and containment, with IT executing operational controls and restoration under coordinated direction. Legal interprets obligations and manages regulatory and contractual considerations, while privacy coordinates risk to individual assessments, documentation, and notification workflows. Communications translates confirmed facts into clear external messaging, and customer support delivers consistent help to affected people using approved guidance. Product and engineering build fixes and analyze application impacts, while vendor management coordinates third-party involvement and contractual duties. Executive leadership makes resource and trade-off decisions and ensures follow-through after the incident. When these functional roles are clearly defined with internal and external accountability in mind, the organization can respond quickly, communicate truthfully, and demonstrate that its privacy program is operationally mature even under pressure.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.